when late President Umaru Yar'Adua nominated him as governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, on June 1, 2009, many close watchers of Nigeria's banking sector believed that his no-nonsense disposition would help to correct the many ills that had for long plagued Nigeria's banking sector. On June 3, 2009, when he appeared for screening on the floor of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Malam Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, CON, Danmajan Kano, Prince of the Kano Emirate, left no one in doubt that he was set for a revolution to sanitize the Nigerian banking sector. So, on June 4, 2009, he officially embarked on a series of reform measures aimed at restoring the health of Nigerian banks and make operations in the sector conform with internationally accepted standards. Before Sanusi came on board, the Nigerian banking sector was described as very corrupt by unbiased industry analysts. They cited instances when ordinary and voiceless Nigerians were being shortchanged and made to lose the opportunity to own houses because some banks refused to grant them loans. Yet, the same banks dished out billions of naira to a few privileged persons without collateral. Chief executives of those banks were found to be living flamboyantly on depositors' money. Some bought private jets and landed property in choice locations all over the world. All these happened, and the culprits were never apprehended because they were well connected, as they would say in the local parlance. But the Sanusi era at the CBN has spared no sacred cows. Without any doubt, this brilliant scholar, activist, eloquent defender of the voiceless, philanthropist, foremost risk expert, and consummate economist, Malam Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, has changed the character of banking in Nigeria.
The moment when we finally took over the last three banks, Keystone, Enterprise, and Main Street, when it became very clear that we could say we had actually drawn a line under the banking crisis. Up to that point, there was a major concern over how we're going to pull this off. We had promised that banks would not fail. We had promised that depositors would not lose their money. And we had all sorts of challenges as we went along. But I think being able to do that and pull that off as efficiently as we did was one of the highlights. I think also a few weeks ago, just being able to say that we have found a solution for the AMCON issues and a way of getting AMCON to repay its debt without imposing too much of a burden on the economy must be one of the highlights. Then obviously from a monetary policy perspective, just watching inflation at single digits for 4 consecutive months, watching stable exchange rates, watching reserves build up, and just generally being able to say that we have restored financial stability. Those are 3 things I would say.
Within a few months, the CBN governor, Malam Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, left no one in doubt as to the direction he was headed. He churned out a blueprint for reforming Nigeria's financial system anchored on 4 pillars: enhancing the quality of banks, establishing financial stability, enabling healthy financial sector evolution, and ensuring that the financial sector contributes to the real economy.
In the last 4 years, he has performed creditably well. And he has been able to, the organization has been able to achieve its mandates under his leadership. We have been able to do that's exactly what CBN was set up to do. That's how I'll summarize it. But let me just mention a few of the achievements that we had. We have been able to have price stability, which is our mandate. And in that sense, we had inflation at single digits, something we haven't had for a while now. We have been able to have single-digit inflation, 4 months consecutively. We also have stable exchange rate. The market has been stable in the past 2 years because of the kind of policies which we have pursued. In terms of the financial stability, which was a bit shaky, the financial system wasn't really all right when he came in. He has been able to have to deliver safe, sound, and stable financial system, which is also one of the mandates that we wanted to achieve. And a credible, reliable, and efficient payment system is also what we are. Some of them are still work in progress, but I think overall he's done well.
He has said that he has one more year to go, but like I told him, the decision is not his. As God fearing people, it's God who decides when somebody will go, particularly given his record of performance over the last 4 years. I think he should leave it to the country to decide whether he should continue or not continue. Having said that, I think it's for a time for us to reflect on what has happened in the last 4 years. For me, you can't talk about Sanusi Lamido Sanusi legacy as governor of Central Bank without looking at issues of financial stability, particularly the banking sector. He came at a time that the so-called second round effect of the global financial crisis is actually having impact on us, and the banking system was, in spite of all the liquidity, because I've been here, that were pumping into the banking system, there was signs of liquidity stress among some banks as a result of a combination of poor governance practices, as a result of bad credit portfolios because of huge exposure to the capital markets and to oil and gas later, and you know what has happened there. So he came at a time when some banks had noticeable challenges of liquidity and solvency, and the first thing he did was, under with our support, was to look at what addressing the chronic cancer that was building in the banking system. Now that's history. You know what has happened. We have, under his leadership, and that requires a lot of courage, have had to go deep into the books of the banks to determine which ones are good and which ones had problems, and we've had to take, under his leadership, very courageous measures, including obviously the removal of some CEOs and coming up with a framework, for building the financial system, and that has been and is being implemented with all the discipline around the four pillars of the banking sector reform. So that's the first important legacy, and that was the first, and for me, the most profound area of our impact.
I came in at a very difficult period when, as you know, 1/3 of the banking system was about to collapse and have pulled everybody down with them. Inflation was 15.6%, exchange rates all over the place because of the global crisis, and reserves were crashing. I think for me, just working very, very hard and without rest in the last 3-4 years has paid off. But it also means that you cannot continue at this pace for many more years, because we're all human, and to fix a crisis is not easy. Intellectually, physically, emotionally, it takes a lot out of you. There have been challenges sometimes with my bosses who have, again, not quite understood the role of the institution and see it as criticism. But as we have tried to improve communication, I think we've dealt with some of those challenges. We've had to confront vested interests. We've had to step on many toes. We've had to make many enemies. As a result, we've had all sorts of attacks from Renaissance professional to whatever, all sorts of abuses, allegations that have not been very easy on the personal side of the family, on the children. For me personally, I don't care, but I signed up for the job, my family didn't. And so there are the personal issues that people don't think of when they come out with these but by and large, it's been an exciting moment for me, an opportunity to be of service, and I will always remember, if I keep saying that, look, if the only thing I take away from my 4 years is that I saved the banks without a single depositor losing a single kobo in a Nigerian bank, that's enough for me.
Now we have banks after the last financial sector assessment by the World Bank and IMF. We have a banking system that has been adjudged to be sound. All the ratios are good, non-performing loans, courtesy of Amaka, and the decision of the banks themselves to comply with our requirement has been brought below 5%. So we have a very sound banking system today. The other tangential but also very important thing that has happened was the creation of Amaka. Now that has been in the works in CBN even before he came, but he is the person who drove the legislation and the legislation, and thanks to the support given by the National Assembly, we now have Amaka that has been established, and Amaka has done very well in terms of recapitalizing the banks and providing liquidity for them. So it has helped in supporting addressing the challenges that we've had in the banking system. So that's a second major setting up of Amaka. That's in the area of financial stability. Of course, the banks are healthy enough. Many of them are posting 100 billion. You can put your money in banks and go to sleep. There's better governance. There's better and more healthy evolution of the banking system.
The emphasis which Malam Sanusi Lamido Sanusi has placed on transparency and risk management has impacted positively on the financial performance of banks in Nigeria. The robustness of Sanusi's policy thrust has manifested in profit margins for virtually all the banks in their 2012 operations. He also scored another first with the introduction of the cashless policy, an aspect of electronic banking seeking to reduce crowding in banking halls. The pilot scheme took off in Lagos in 2012 and has now extended to Abuja, the federal capital, and other locations across Nigeria. The cashless policy places a ceiling on the amount of cash that can be withdrawn from banks and seeks to prevent people from carrying too much cash around.
The payment system reform. That is also very profound. Obviously, we've had FSS 2020 and Payments 2020. But what has happened under Governor Sanusi Lamido Sanusi is, as is always the way he approaches things, is to identify 1, 2, 3 things that you will do, because you will obviously not do everything. So the payments reform, the cashless or cash-light Lagos that we're having, which incidentally today we are starting to witness the implementation of the maximum withdrawal of 150,000 as third-party payment from today here and in other parts of the country has been profound. The cashless Lagos has been profound, all in an effort to make sure that the cost of doing business by banks, because of provided the cost of managing cash is reduced to its barest minimum, and that way that and the related benefits will translate into lower costs of doing business for banks, and hopefully translate into lower lending costs to the borrower and lending rates. So major reforms are in that area which have started from Lagos successfully. Initially with teething problems, but successfully, and it's going to be passed on to the other parts of the country. It's also another and second major area of achievement.
I think it's extremely important to remember that monetary policy buys time. It doesn't fix and doesn't take the place of fiscal reform and structural policy. Many of the reforms that need to be done: continued reduction in subsidies, increase in capital spending, reduction in recurrent expenditure and overheads, investments in infrastructure. These are fiscal, and I think we're more or less on the right track, and we need to just make sure that that's done. On the structural side, there has been progress on the power reforms, but we still have the oil industry reforms. We still have the agricultural transformation and other structural reforms that need to be pursued. And of course, there are issues around governance reforms, around, say, transparency in the oil industry, ease of doing business, and the cost of doing business, and so on, which need to be looked at. So we need to take advantage of the stability that's been created by monetary and fiscal policy to build up structural reforms and governance reforms. If we don't do that, we will have short-term stability. But in the event of a shock, say to oil price or oil output, we may end up risking that stability.
Under the monetary policy formulation and implementation, first is this composition, the establishment and proper composition of the Monetary Policy Committee. I think it's important. The CBN Act had envisaged the setting up a Monetary Policy Committee, but one was not established and populated until he came. And so that's major credit. Whenever I'm at the Monetary Policy Committee, I feel very proud that we're not just mechanics, in the way that we're not like bankers, mechanics. We also go there and we read, we brainstorm, and then we argue with university professors brought from outside, and we debate before we take decisions in the Monetary Policy Committee. And like myself, that we've had huge successes in that area. I mean, it's not just establishing of the committee, but we witnessed huge success. And I say this with modesty, and I'll mention a few 1, 2, 3 areas that we've achieved, made remarkable achievement under the leadership of Sanusi. He has to take the credit for it because it's his leadership. The first is that inflation is, since 2008, inflation is now at single digit. And it's been assumably for the past 4 months. Now that has happened only in 2008. So we've literally conquered inflation, which is remarkable. Typically, in most emerging or frontier economies like us, you find inflation is a challenge. And it's been a challenge here, but that has been literally conquered. The challenge is to remain at single digit. The second area is on exchange rate. Exchange rate has been very, very stable. We've maintained, the rate within the corridor of plus or minus 3%. And it's, so businessmen know that you have stability. So we achieved stability in terms of exchange price stability, in terms of exchange rate and inflation. So, and foreign reserves, tangentially have built up. We entered this year with about 32 billion. Today, the foreign reserves is at about 48 billion. Actually had gone to 50, and it's still growing. So we have monetary and price, substantial monetary and price stability under his leadership.
As a foremost risk expert, Malam Sanusi had been familiar with the factors responsible for the poor performance of Nigeria's financial system, having served as Chief Risk Officer at the United Bank for Africa (UBA) and the First Bank. So, for 4 years, beginning from June 4, 2009, this widely traveled and well-read economist has successfully tackled major failures in corporate governance in Nigerian banks, lack of investor and consumer protection, inadequate disclosure and transparency about financial position of banks, critical gaps in the banking regulatory framework, and weaknesses in the business environment among other issues. In the past 4 years, the CBN, under the leadership of Malam Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, has rolled out strategies to bail out distressed banks, unlock credit markets and inject funds into the productive sectors of the Nigerian economy. Malam Sanusi's unflinching commitment to probity and accountability has earned him many awards and honors. For 3 years in a row, Malam Sanusi has won the prestigious Central Bank Governor of the Year award by the African Banker Awards. He has consistently been so honored by reputable organizations within and outside Nigeria, honored by those who understand the essence of probity, transparency, professionalism, and global best practices. The most recent award was conferred on Malam Sanusi Lamido Sanusi on Wednesday, May 29, 2013, inside the magnificent Taj Palace, Marrakesh, Morocco, for a man who has been widely criticized and has faced all manner of threats because of his passion for justice, probity, and accountability. These awards and international recognition should serve as a source of strength and encouragement. At the 2013 Central Bank Governor of the Year Award, Malam Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, Commander of the Order of the Niger CON, Danmajan Kano, received all-round praise for his remarkable leadership role and consistent contribution to banking reforms in Nigeria.
Dr. Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, Chairman of the Board and Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria! Governor Sanusi, Dr. Sanusi Lamido Sanusi!
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and I'm honored to receive this award on behalf of my 6,000 colleagues in the Central Bank of Nigeria who've done all the work. I take all the credit for it, but those staff are responsible for this success. I'd like to thank African Banker for this honor. I'd like to acknowledge the support of colleagues in government. We have the Minister of Finance here, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. May I invite her to join me here? She's my partner in crime. The central bank always takes credit for managing inflation, but you can't manage it if you don't have fiscal responsibility. If the Deputy Governor, Sarah Alade, can come representing our colleagues in the bank, that would be great. I'd like to thank everyone for this honor. Everything we've achieved as a team. And yes, thanks, Ngozi.
Really excited.
This is my partner in crime. Thank you very much, and thank you. That's all I will say. Thank you.
Sir, thank you very much indeed.
You know, the only good thing about these awards is that they are given by people who understand what the central bank governor is supposed to do. People judge central bank governors by what they think the central bank should do. So if there's no electricity, or if there's no food on the table, or if there's no petrol, they say central bank. They think we manage the economy. But those who understand our primary role of price stability, exchange rate stability, and banking system stability have a very good idea of how do you perform as a central banker when compared to other central bankers. The second interesting thing about the award is that it's never done by journals and just panels of judges. They actually consult our peers. So they will talk to other central bank governors and say, in your view, who is so there's a kind of validation for what you've done. Frankly, we have never had any doubt that we had a very clear idea of what our role was and what our duty was. Some people might not understand that, but the maintenance of the independence of the central bank, the establishment of price and exchange rate stability, and the stability of the banking system have remained basically very clear on the table for us. So it's good to have this validation from international bodies.
The organizers of the event particularly noted that his achievements have inspired other central bank governors in Africa and other parts of the world to emulate him. The awards committee highlighted that Malam Sanusi Lamido Sanusi has continuously been singled out by other central bank governors, international bankers, investors and development partners as a reformist governor with integrity, candor, energy and exceptional courage. The committee asserted that Africa's improved reputation was attributable largely in part to the efforts of leaders like Sanusi, who, as CBN governor, has made exceptional contributions to the economic and social development of the African continent.